And then
Ready? Okay. Good morning. I'm going to call the April 2nd meeting of Administrative Services Committee to order. Roll call, Paul. You're here. Pam's here. Terry's here. Matt's here. I'm here. We have a quorum. Eric would like to join us. Can I have a motion to let him join us?
I'll second Matt's motion.
Okay.
Eric
Matt,
hasn't actually joined.
What?
Eric's not present yet.
He's not yet,
He's
but
just
he's.
in the list of invites.
Okay, well, we're gonna let him come in when he comes in. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so you just let him in if he shows up. Or minutes of the
Motion to approve the minutes is presented.
Second by Pam, seconded by Matt. Any changes or corrections? Anybody? Not seeing anybody? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And Mr.
Public
Hendricks
comment?
has joined us.
And Eric's now joined us. Eric, you in favor of the minutes?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any public comment? Nobody, no sign-ins? Okay.
Paul, anybody? Okay.
All right. Any member comments? Don't all jump at once. Okay. That'll take us all the way down to the routine consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything off the routine consent agenda?
The coroner.
6.2? Okay. Any other changes or any other? Can I have a motion to approve 6.1 and 6.3? By Paul, seconded by Matt. Roll call, Terry?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, so 6.1 and 6.3 have passed this consent agenda. Can I have a motion for 6.2 so we can discuss it?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Second made by Matt, seconded by Pam. Matt, you got the floor.
So in another committee meeting, I brought up the question about the refrigeration unit on the coroner's office chillers, and I was relatively correct. They are only 10 years old, which means we're kind of pitching them out at their half-life. This is kind of a shameful waste of our taxpayer dollars, not to make a big hullabaloo about it, but this is so close to the budget. This is construction. As anybody who knows constructions, these things do run over budget. I would prefer to use our existing chiller, and since we switched to a room instead of lockers, it can work. That's not a hill I need to die on, but I am not in favor of the bulletproof glass and the other alternate, the tile. Because the epoxy walls, the epoxy floor are perfectly fine. They're used throughout the nation in coroner's offices. And I think it's probably an overspend for those items.
And at that same committee, we had asked to have more information brought forward to administrative services and finance. So I would ask if the coroner's office is here or if administration can answer some of those questions that were asked at that committee.
I don't know. I don't see anybody.
We just called the coroner and we didn't get the answer.
Because there was a lengthy, just to let everybody know, there's a lengthy discussion about this project and not a whole lot of information provided to us at answering those questions. So, to
And
Matt's
I'm
point,
only
those
keeping it
were,
brief today because I did see that he was not here and therefore thought we didn't have those questions answered. I believe this still goes through finance, is that not correct?
Will tomorrow.
tomorrow.
But then at the cow, I really, by the cow, need those answers raised, would like those answers answered.
I'm going to have to respectfully be reminded, I know there was questions about the age of the refrigeration, and we got you those answers.
Correct, and they were, as it was, 10 years, it's been on 10 years with no issues with the refrigeration as it stands right now.
And the other question was related to the gurney versus the stackable,
Right.
and why one was versus, I can't speak for why one was chosen over the other. But those were the principal two questions. The bulletproof glass and the tile is more of
I Okay,
Opinion piece.
right, but with regard to the refrigeration, I got it, it's at 10 years. The bigger question was, can we just use that? I mean, is there a reason that I didn't get an
Well,
answer
we
to
couldn't
that.
before because he was gonna go stack, well, they're modular and they usually have their own built-in refrigeration still outside, but refrigeration tied to that. But using still a refrigerated room, a cooler, if you will, because we're using gurneys now, they've gone back to the old school with the gurneys. It is very viable. Tom's here, Tom could let us know if that is viable. He's hiding, but it's here.
No.
And my biggest thing is, we can't just keep spending willy-nilly on this thing, especially on a construction project. Paul can attest too. They don't come into budget.
No, I understand that. What I'm just saying is I agree. The question was though, is that feasible? And what would, the recommendation would be?
We were
And
looking
there
at
was
if there's a
nothing-
cost savings to do the stackables a piece at a time as we go down the road, rather than buy the entire Cadillac at one time.
And here's my construction guys, and that's, I mean, I am a neophyte. I have no idea one way or another, so I just was looking for guidance.
Has the size of the cooler, the height, the width, has that?
There are drawings on here that the actual full scale, yes, there are a lot of changes to that, and multiple gurneys. But my thing is, we're still only doing 7 to 10 autopsies a month. That has not increased at all. I understand when we build to build for the future, but I don't understand throwing out the quality components that taxpayers have already paid for in a half-life or less.
And I think you just put your finger on the issue now, as I'm trying to, Scott and I are somewhat laymen, and certainly not Tom Burrows' job to tell the coroner how much cooler he needs, right? This is the size of the cooler that he requested. And it's sort of along those lines. Are we building a cooler for today, or are we building a cooler for the future? And I don't have that answer.
Right, and that's why we're looking for the coroner to give us a few more answers about some of those things. Because if we go modular, or we do A cooler this year and B cooler in 5 years down the road, certainly A cooler can be run with our existing refrigeration unit. It's about 1.5 tons, is that correct, Tom?
Right.
1.5 tons of cooling would run the cooler for those gurneys.
Can I ask, can we table this till later in the meeting and see if the coroner is available?
He's gonna be here in 5 minutes?
So
Okay.
that would be my, and we'll keep on.
I would say we could agree to come back to this before we're done. And we won't take a vote now, if that's all right with the board, and we will decide this when we get some answers. Okay, that takes us to old business. Can I have a motion to approve the new architect plan?
Motion.
By Matt, the second by Paul. This one I know we have some explaining to do. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, it's good explaining, I'll say. A few meetings ago, we brought forward a proposal to look at the space for the county, more of a comprehensive overall approach. That was $180,000 to $200,000 to look at the big picture and put the county in a position to understand the space needs for a long term so you can make strategic decisions. The committee didn't want to go that far, knowing that we have some specific space needs in the state's attorney's office, the courts, sheriff's office, public defender, specialty courts, and we wanted to really focus in on just addressing those known needs. So the committee's direction was work with that architect, come back with a revised proposal, bring it back to the committee on a smaller bite. So we did. We went back. We got a proposal from that the architect. It was about $150,000 to do that limited work, all in about a 7-month process. And well, that was. I didn't think that we really would have met the intent of the county and the county board and the direction that this committee had given. So we approached another architect that the county has a relationship with, which is Wold, to say, do you do this kind of work? They're very familiar with the county, and of course they do. And we solicited a proposal, and that is what's before you, to do basically that space study analysis for those offices that we know are needed for about $32,500.
So we just saved 120 grand.
Yes.
I
Thank you,
applaud
Matt.
Scott and Pete, administration and the whole, because we asked and they answered and they did a fantastic job. But I do publicly want to tell all the board members, it is our duty to ask. If we do not ask, they are not doing their job to deliver what they delivered. So I really appreciate it. This seems to be more in line with what the board was asking, and I definitely love the savings. Thank you.
Any other comments on this? Can we go to vote? All right. Terry?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll vote yes, so 7.1 is approved. Update on RFP for the jail.
This will be really quick.
Okay.
But it was requested that we kind of have a little update here. You are here, Sandra. Thank you. We have, the sheriff's office has been working with an outside consultant, and you're going to update on that in a moment.
Yes.
That was her job. Scott and I had a job of kind of reaching out to local healthcare, and we had a virtual meeting with Northwestern, and I've had kind of some casual conversations with Mercy Healthcare. Both are going to result in formal meetings with the sheriff's office. The meeting with Mercy has been set for the 14th of this month, and I get acknowledgement from Northwestern the other day that they're still trying to get their team together. So, but they do want to meet, so that's moving ahead. You can update on
Sure.
the second.
So for the committee members that didn't hear, what we were doing is, as you know from the last budget, our inmate healthcare is the biggest expense besides for personnel in the sheriff's office. So for FY '25, we've budgeted $2.4 million. And that's per contract. We went out to bid for that, and we are currently in our last year of a 5-year bid. Current company, WellPath, we've had a really good relationship with. We've been through a lot with them. We had our ICE detainees and we didn't have our ICE detainees, which changed how the contract looked because of numbers. Now we have Lake County, we've had Kane County, we have the Navy. So things have been changing and we've made a little adjustments throughout this time. However, I am very confident that when we go out to bid at the end of November, that we're gonna be faced with some big increases in inmate healthcare.
If we continue to use that kind of turnkey approach.
Correct. So right now it is very convenient where we just have a contract and this company comes in and they provide all of the healthcare. So that includes dental, mental health, prescriptions, and all the basics. So the sheriff had talked with Kankakee County and they actually, when facing the same thing, went to a different process and they developed their own medical unit per se and hired those personnel and provide their own healthcare to the inmates, and they've saved a lot of money. So yes.
No, and the equipment that is being used is ours, is the county's equipment as well,
The dental
correct?
suite is
So that's already
ours,
there.
the medical,
Okay.
everything in the medical suite is ours.
The staffing is theirs, and the
The
staffing.
staffing and the risk,
The
is
number,
theirs.
I was stunned, you gave it to me, it amounts to like 12 FTEs.
12.9 FTEs.
Right, spread across 7 days.
Correct.
24/7, right.
So anyway, so we worked, not anyway, I didn't mean it like that. So we brought in the same lady who was a consultant for Kankakee. In fact, she was an employee there and set this up for them. We brought her in to say, hey, we are gonna be going out for an RFP again, but we wanna have our options open. So we're looking at a pronged approach where it's going forward with a traditional RFP, looking into developing our own medical unit and providing the staff, extending our current contract for another year to give us time to even think about all this, and or working with our local hospitals, which Pete and Scott have been great with, and saying, hey, we want to partner. Let's do some sort of hybrid approach here where maybe you provide the staff, you help us, we help you situation.
Captive audience.
Correct.
Steady money.
Correct. We just literally got, and we needed to start with a staffing plan because the staffing has been the most challenging part for us working with WellPath. And As you guys know, healthcare, it's very challenging right now to retain staffing at all levels. So even nursing, they leave companies now for $1 an hour. And you have that at Valley High. So very, very challenging. So we want to make sure that we don't put ourselves in a situation that, isn't going to be helping us anyway. We just got the staffing report back from this consultant. Yesterday, the sheriff sent it to me, and we're looking through it, and we're going to be sitting down with her and talking to her. We feel that this staffing plan is going to be really the base for moving forward in both the RFP and the possibility of creating our own medical unit, because first we need to know how many bodies we need to make sure that we are covered. So stay tuned. We're moving. This is pretty unique. There's not a lot of counties that do this. So we're working with Scott on the risk side. It's not just staffing. It's pharmaceuticals that we'd have to purchase. There's a lot that we need to look at.
You mentioned it, I'm sorry, may I?
Go ahead.
You mentioned it kind of in passing, but what about additional liability costs? Is that going to be an issue as we go forward? Like how much?
It's a factor.
Yeah, it's a factor, it's a variable.
Yes.
Do we have any idea of what ultimately
It'll
that?
depend a little bit on the model we select, whether it's a hybrid or fully all our staff, or they're contracted doctors. I don't know what that costs.
We haven't really explored, as Pete mentioned, the model will depend on the type of coverage and policy that we'll need. Kankakee does have a standalone medical policy to cover their medical liability for their jail, and we would look at something along the same. We haven't priced that out, but it would be a separate standalone policy to ensure against that liability. Currently, there is liability with this, and even with WellPath, we have the county has that liability, but we have an indemnification clause that we basically push it off onto WellPath.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. You told me you weren't going to be here.
I wasn't going to leave you.
Maybe you guys want to pick that back up? Come on up to the hot seat.
Sorry, I thought the meeting was tomorrow.
There is one
Finances tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. I have it Thursday, Friday, not Wednesday, Thursday.
Dress rehearsal.
I don't know how much of this you heard or didn't hear, but
Zero.
zero, so go ahead.
The question is, again, using the gurney method that we've switched back to instead of the lockers and/or lockers, can we use our existing refrigeration and take this a bite at a time as that cooler space is needed?
No. The cooler is being increased because of not only the size, but the height. When we were putting the rack system in at first, that was the first layout. The rack system is 5 high. We are increasing the height of the cooler as well to be able to put those racks in as well. Also, you need a machine to get those racks off. And you need to be able to get the machine in there, get it turned to where the rack system is, pull one of the slides out, and then to be able to maneuver that around as well. We do not have the size in the current cooler at all to do that, to put a machine in. You can't put a rack system in there as it sits. So the rack system was designed, yes, obviously partially for the future, but adding the gurneys instead, since we're increasing the size, I feel pretty comfortable that at this time that the gurney system right now would work, and then as needed going forward, we could add racks to that to be able to do that. I think that the size we have right now, we've been over capacity, probably 6 to 8 times since I've been here, which is not good. I think that since we started this project and since I've started this project and talking with the county board and things of that nature, that's kind of one of the main reasons to do this. So being over capacity, it is not an ideal situation at all. And a lot of times we get close to capacity and we're one car accident away from being over capacity every time. And partially, with car accidents specifically, they do have multiple injuries or multiple deaths. Part of that is when fire gets on scene, if they have pulse or anything of that nature, they usually flight for life out of our county, which means that they're out of our jurisdiction. However, if there are no life signs, that's when we get called. So we do have a lot of accidents in our county that actually get flight for life actually outside of our jurisdiction. However, again, many times we're one car accident away from being over capacity of what we need. Go ahead.
It's still, you've gone back to the gurney system and you're not doing the rack system now. And by backing up using the gurney system as we are, we can do this in stages because we have the refrigeration as it exists to run, let's call it stage 1 gurney cooler. We could leave space and provision down the road if we start having a more frequent, and hopefully we'll just talk to the sheriff and slow down these accidents a little bit. Can we do that? But if we do that, that would allow us to upgrade that to more capacity in the future versus this, we're expanding for a lot for the occasional overcapacity. I'm not saying that's that good thing. Obviously it's not, it's a very bad thing. But it seems to me we could use taxpayer dollars better to utilize some of the existing system we have and draw in, have it architecturally designed for the provisions to keep moving with your additional coolers as you have them laid out and additional gurneys as that capacity becomes necessary.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with that. You're talking the same size cooler. What do you plan on doing with that? There's nothing you can do. You can't add a rack system in the cooler that we have right now, so you can't increase capacity. If you have a gurney system in there, we are what we are, so you're not increasing that at all. So I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to say, but again, I think I respectfully disagree with that analysis. I think that we are what we are at this point. And as far as increasing the capacity, we have to increase the size of the cooler to do that.
Right, and what I'm saying is, not to get too technical with it, but the tonnage of the tonnage capacity of the refrigeration is what dictates the size of the cooler. So based on our existing approximately 1.5 tons of refrigeration, we have X amount of cubes, and X amount of cubes could be put in there to that capacity, meaning your first cooler, leaving room for expansion, could be designed and built height, size that you want, so long as we can run it with 1.5 tons of capacity. Down the line, we could add another 1.5 tons of capacity and keep moving on with this thing more modularly, and therefore save us some money now and be able to expand in the future. My big kick is we have a 10-year out refrigeration system that still has arguably 10 more years of lifespan that our taxpayers bought for us, put on that building, and now we are tossing it to the wind. I'm just trying to be a good steward of our dollars and not trying to build the Taj Mahal right away. I do not mind and would like to see our coroner's office continue to expand and improve, but I think we need to do that in baby steps, smaller bites if possible, dollar-wise.
I understand, and I don't think you're going to find a more fiscally responsible person than me when it comes to things in that nature. I think I've proven that. And I'm not sure how you've made a statement saying that we can do this in chunks, but I don't know how you plan to do that, because to do even to add capacity to the gurney system, which you're adding another 3 to 4 gurneys to this project, okay? That I believe that this is the most fiscally responsible way as far as doing it. As far as the refrigeration system goes, I believe that cost was $20-some thousand, $30,000, somewhere in that vicinity. Correct?
For the equipment we're in discussion.
Yeah, it was $30,000. So I understand that aspect of things, but you're taking a $2.2 million project and holding it up for a $30,000 part.
Well, that's not true, because $850,000 of this project deals specifically with refrigeration and coolers.
Correct.
So that's half the project, arguably half the project, without the nuisances we have to deal with by taking the coroner's office out completely while we do this.
Mm-hmm.
That's another bite in the end thing.
Sure.
And again, my only job here is to ask, and I did at Law and Government,
Sure.
Can we look at if there is a gradation, a step program to do this to save money and the viability of that refrigeration unit? That was my question, still is my question. I know everybody wants to do what's on the drawing because the drawing's done. I'm asking, is there a more fiscally prudent way of doing this? Because we are not exceeding capacity, to my knowledge, very often. We're doing 7 to 10 autopsies a month. We seem to be going at about the same level that we have been for several years. I do agree that as our population grows and as our towns and things grow and as traffic increases, that will increase. But right now, we're not on a population growth spurt. We're not in any of those things. And this is fluttering right on the line of a $2 million project, and we only have $2.2 million budget for this. And everybody who knows construction knows these things rarely never finish on budget.
I think we've done a really good job as far as budgeting this project. I think we've, working with Wold, the county, and everybody else involved in this project, and myself, who has a construction background as well. I understand the issues that are going to be had, and granted, as a remodel job, but, remodels typically tend to come back a little bit higher than normal, just because you never know what you're going to get in there. However, in this project, you're working with cubes. I mean, you're working with a lot of open space. You're working with
And I understand that completely, and that's why I'm saying this can be done modularly, where we use those cubes in and when we need it. Again, I'm not criticizing anything you do. You do a great job. What I'm asking is, can we look at that as a cost-saving measure towards this?
I guess I'm not sure exactly what you mean by cube. And I think kind of what we're doing right now is fiscally responsible as well. Because as you know, construction costs go up every year and things in that nature and beyond. And to do an add-on, to where we're at, because basically the cooler itself is actually, when we extend it, is going to be going into the freezer area. So basically where the freezer is right now, we're taking that freezer out to expand the cooler and then moving the freezer specifically. So basically, I'm not sure how you would do it incrementally, because you can't, to expand the cooler area that we're talking about, we have to take the freezer out. That's bottom line, so.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna make a suggestion. That's a construction guy, that's not a construction guy. That's a coroner, that's not a coroner. Would it be possible, do you think, Doctor, to maybe invite Wold or a representative from Wold to the finance committee tomorrow?
They'll be there tomorrow.
And Eric is on the finance, as is Terry is on the finance, and then maybe some of those things can be. Oh, Wold is here now, maybe you could answer, maybe you could talk to the construction guy better.
Yeah.
He's not here on that project.
Oh, but I'm just thinking
no.
that maybe
Yeah.
it would be easier, for the
Somebody will be here
conversation and
from
the
Wold
language to
tomorrow.
be the same.
Because I have
That's all.
them scheduled for Thursday and Friday.
And Friday.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned your fiscal responsibility, absolutely. And I have a crazy question on a different tack.
Okay.
This is a 10-year unit. Could it be sold as a used unit to get any revenues from it? I mean, anything?
I know that purchasing, where's that at? Yeah, I already talked to him about, or I talked to Juana, and we kind of interfaced as far as everything that's in there that could be possibly sold and things in that nature. So yes, it's something that we look into as far as anything and things in that nature, what's serviceable, what we can sell, what we can't sell, things in that nature.
A lot of it's dated. So I mean, we get some value for it, but I don't know that it would be substantial. Because of corner, much like Mike's talking about, a lot of corners, they're not going back to older stuff, they're going to newer stuff. So we're definitely looking into selling it if we can. At this point, we don't have an inventory yet. Excuse me. So I don't have a base dollar amount.
But the fact that you guys are looking at it, thank you.
Oh, yeah. That's part of my job, and it's part of what we do on any construction project. There are some that there is value. There are some that have no value and so on. So we look at that at any point in time and on a major construction project, because anywhere we can return something to the project, we do that.
That would help us though with the big picture overall, especially if we could see something tenable, that's all.
Don't know that I can turn it around by the cow for this project, but we do. We look at it.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Doctor?
Just going back to Matt's, so if the size of 1.5 ton, and as Matt's saying, if you want to expand it, you got to saw cut the floor, you've got to put thermal brakes and everything like that, right?
That would be a Wold question.
That's something that goes on, then you have epoxy floors, so you're patching them. I think back to Mike, to do it, especially a freezer cooler, it should be done at one time, in my experience. But I don't know what it looks like today and what this picture's telling me. How is it double the size?
No. Well, adding the height helps, because literally it's right there, the height of the cooler as we sit. It'll be, like I said, we designed it as being able to put 5 stackables in there. So that ceiling will be raised. I don't know how much. They do know it, Wold does, I know, because I asked them about that question, because I know remember Kunkel asked me about it last time, so
Yeah,
I did ask them about it, and I think it's at least a foot, if not 1.5 feet, but like I said, there was, my bad, as far as, so.
It's one of the challenges of going back and retrofitting and saw cutting floors, and what would that look like, and what Wold would.
I don't know how you would make a solid, or if you just leave the cooler as is, so to speak. I don't know. I mean, you're basically saying leaving the cooler as is and the freezer as is and not doing anything. There's really no increment to it, I don't think.
And I'm okay with that if it's fiscally prudent and meets our needs. But I've also done this for 40 years. I know this can be done incrementally, and I know there is tonnage of cooling sitting on our building that could be utilized. I'm not saying should be, I'm saying could be utilized, and all I'm looking for is the answers. Wold has my number and email. Hopefully that someone from them can get back to me with those answers before the cow, and then I'm all clear. If not, I am watchdogging these dollars. It's 2 million taxpayer dollars.
Could you email me your questions specifically so I can, and then I'll forward it to them
Sure.
and see if I can not only answer your question, but maybe bridge the gap here of what, you know, your meaning is and things of that nature as well.
Okay. All right.
And
Eric,
this-
do you have, go ahead, Terry.
This is a big ask, but if either of you could possibly be at finance tomorrow, because to my knowledge, there isn't anybody with this type of background in the finance committee.
Zoom in,
Pardon me?
or zoom in.
Zoom in.
Yeah, zoom in.
Okay, maybe probably, well, you'll be there to tell them that they're on the Zoom for that reason, but.
I'm on the road to Springfield during that time, so it won't happen for me. And I'm not sure that Paul has the mechanical basis behind this. I know he has a construction basis, but I know these refrigeration rooms can be built all sizes. I've built them in L's, I've built them in fingers. They can be made all sizes and ways, no matter.
If you're driving, if I provide you with the teams, you do have the ability to call it as well. Just
Okay.
your voice, if you'd like me to send either of you one.
If you could send me that and that does work, I will try and stay on. It's spotty going to Springfield.
Yeah, it's very spotty.
And to be clear, I don't have a mechanical background, but I do know I've built a ton of coolers, ton of freezers, and there's frost breaks in the floors. And then when you're doing epoxy flooring and you're patching things, those are potentially down the line are bad. They're gonna crack, whatever, if this is gonna be a sanitary environment.
I'm not sure this is an epoxy floor in there, but yeah, that's definitely something I will check with them.
Okay. All right, so we have to decide what we're doing with it here today. My recommendation is that your vote today doesn't bind you at the county board, full board, but I would like to move it forward. And I don't know, does anybody else have anything else before we go on? Okay, then I'm gonna go to a vote. Matt, you go first.
I'm voting without the alternates.
We're just voting to move this forward to the rest of the board. We're not gonna, it's not coming back here next month. You're gonna have a committee of the whole, you're gonna have a board meeting, you're gonna have all those things beforehand. If we vote no, it's still going to the committee, it's just not going on consent agenda.
Okay, well, here's my going forward thing, same was with law and government. If there's no give or take on this issue, I am not in favor of any of the alternates to make sure that this project goes to budget. So there's nothing wrong, and the industry uses epoxy throughout the industry. There's nothing wrong with the epoxy on that end, and there's nothing wrong with screening bulletproof glass in the future if that has to happen. But I'd be a no on both of those to give us some leeway in the budget.
Right. And again, I'm not binding your vote.
It's not, but this is part of what I'm talking about with the resolution. For me to go forward, I have to know that this is not going forward at $2 million. Yes, sir.
Just to confirm, the resolution as written does not include the ballistic glass or the large roll.
So my vote is yes to move on.
Okay. Terry?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Pam? Eric?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. That takes it forward. You guys can have fun in finance tomorrow.
And if there's any questions or something, just email them to me. Okay, so,
All right.
okay, thank you.
Point 2 is what brings us to the next item.
This is a 6-month board orientation check-in.
That's what we're up to.
We've had requests from a couple of new board members, maybe do another orientation, and since Pam's here, thought maybe I'd ask you if
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. There are several new board members who attended the original orientation, including some older board members have requested that we do another orientation. We did the zoning, right, correct? Yesterday, we did a zoning 101. This would be more on parliamentary procedure, more of a Robert's Rules of Order, and then anything else that anybody wanted. So both Brian and I have indicated we'd be happy to do something like that. We've got a presentation that's all, PowerPoint, that's all done and worked up, so.
Should we take that as a direction to find a spot in May when everybody can be there?
I would ask for that, yes, please.
Thank you.
Either that or give them 20 minutes at the beginning or the end of April 23rd.
That doesn't allow us for, and this is more of an opportunity for people, I think, to ask those questions that they don't necessarily want to ask in front of a whole large group of people, because they don't. So I think a smaller opportunity, if they would like to attend, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. But again, Brian's, I've used it. His PowerPoint for Robert's Rules of Order is hands down spectacular, and obviously we would provide hard copies of that to everyone as well.
Does it have a bullet point on constituent services?
We're going to talk a little bit about that and talking about how to deal with the press as well. Yes.
Beautiful.
This is really good for everybody.
Again, we'll work with Peter and get that information out, and whoever wants to attend, and then maybe break it up too. So if you don't want to come on certain sections, you don't have to show up except for that period of time.
Thank you. Capital plan update.
Good morning. We'll start briefly in Crystal Lake, and then we'll come off to this campus here. Crystal Lake, we do not have permits issued yet. We signed, well, as last month we were waiting for Crystal Lake to finally, we've provided them everything that they have requested, but as we come to find out, it's a little longer process than many municipalities. And we signed some paperwork regarding the stormwater permit application yesterday afternoon, and we're hoping, and hope is not a plan, I understand, but this is a bit out of our hands, that we will be able to get started in the next week or two. We think this is the last piece of the puzzle, these signatures. Really, that's all I can say about it. Certainly our contractor's staged and ready to go. We're certainly anxious to get going. Everything that we can do that we've done. Our client, the health department has moved out, the space is ready, things are inventoried, it's ready to go. We're just awaiting Crystal Lake, so.
Question. Do you have these types of issues with other cities, villages in the county?
Well, this is unique in that typically our projects are within the county proper, so most of our permitting takes place in the city of Woodstock. City of Woodstock has a reciprocal agreement for permitting that we can issue permits, even though we're in the city of Woodstock, for everything except for, because they want the fire life safety side still, and they want elevator safety side. But it's really never been a problem for us. This is, because of where this property sits directly square in the Crystal Lake watershed area, is receiving particular attention. Maybe other extenuating factors that are bringing more attention to this project than that might be ordinary, I don't know. But the watershed certainly is a focus point for them. We'll move on to this property with a parking lot update. Lindsay Osborne in our office put together some communication tool that's been sent out. We will send that out right now, and it'll kind of give you an overview of what to expect here. Yes.
Where are we parking?
Across the street.
No, I don't know, because across the street.
I'm sorry, at this property here.
No.
Where are we parking?
Where we're parking our cars across the street, yes.
You will see in a moment.
Early next month, the parking lot of the administration building is scheduled to be replaced. This presentation is intended to provide a brief overview of the project along with the anticipated impact on building users. The project work consists of demolition and replacement of existing paving, concrete curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. The project also includes the installation of empty conduit sleeves for possible future EV infrastructure and updating the monument signage to incorporate new county branding. This phase project is expected to start on April 7th and scheduled to take 20 weeks to complete. Phases 1 through 4 will be completed through the asphalt binder course, with the final surface course being applied in a single application over the entire site. Phase 1's work site includes the west side of the rear parking lot, the loading dock, and the perimeter drive aisle. The north entrance will be temporarily unavailable for periods of time while the sidewalk is being removed and replaced. The east and main entrances should be utilized for access to the building during this phase. Phase 2 is expected to start on May 16th, and its work area covers the eastern side of the rear parking lot. This phase also includes the addition of an outdoor concrete pad with power and the installation of empty conduit sleeves to allow for possible future addition of EV infrastructure. Phase 3 is scheduled to begin on July 2nd. The work area covers the front and east parking lots. The phase also includes the addition of a dedicated paved path that will connect from the east parking lot, moving south to the main sidewalk along Ware Road, which will enhance safety for pedestrians and promote walking. Access to the main entrance will be impacted for visitors coming across the street from the government center during this phase. Phase 4 will start on August 4th, and the work site is the building's main entrance drive. If possible, the work will occur on weekends. However, if the work is done on weekdays, the work site will be split in half, leaving one lane always open with a flagger present to allow access to the building's parking lots for staff and visitors. Once Phase 4 is completed, a single application final surface course will be paved for the entire site and final striping will be applied. During the project, parking availability at the administration building will be significantly reduced. Public parking and a limited number of staff parking will remain on site. All fleet vehicle parking will be relocated to the northwest end of the east parking lot of the government center, and a number of the administration building staff will be required to park in the northeastern corner of that lot. A separate email will be sent out to department heads indicating the number of their staff that will need to park across the street. Construction dust in the air and on the parking lot surfaces will be unavoidable during the project. For anyone that has concerns of breathing airborne construction dust or getting construction dust on their vehicle, should consider parking away from the work site. The building's HVAC system is equipped with high performance filtration, which will ensure safe indoor air quality for the building's occupants. Facilities management will send out weekly project update emails to all employees that will include the contractor's planned activities for the upcoming week, describe any work that may impact accessibility to the building, and inform when the contractor will transition phases. If you have any questions about the project, please reach out to facilities management. Thank you in advance for your understanding and patience during the completion of this important project that will contribute to the sustainability of McHenry County and its assets.
Good job, Lindsay.
Good.
So,
Very nice.
did that answer your questions?
We're good.
Dang it, yeah.
3.5 minutes, that was it, 3.5 minutes or less. Thanks, Lindsay, you did a great job with that. So there will be some inconvenience. Many of us are just planning on parking across the street just because days like today, you know, we work with it. It's the Midwest, we've seen rain before. And we're anxious to get going on it. So we're planning the contractors, we've met with them, and we're getting started on Monday with it.
Okay.
You see a couple of rooftop units sitting out in front of the building. Those will be lifted onto the roof Saturday morning. Excuse me, we hope the crane arrives at 7 a.m. Our goal is to have the new units lifted onto the roof along with the curb adapters that are on the government center side of the road on Saturday, and power terminated, gas brought in and terminated on Saturday as well. Sunday we have a startup team from the manufacturer scheduled to be here at 7 a.m. along with our controls contractor, with our goal to be have the units running and under some control so that on Monday the building is habitable I mean, that's a low bar, but we're not sure exactly what to expect weather-wise. The people coming from the manufacturer, you know, there's variables there that we can't control. We have a solid plan. We'll stay on top of that plan. When we come Monday, the building should be in reasonably good shape. And as the morning progresses, if we're still a little bit out of range, we'll get it back under control.
It looks like from the forecast, it just means bring a sweater.
Yeah, it looks like good weather, not a lot of wind, and no dramatic changes in temperature, so we should be good. That's the plan. Really, that's all I have to talk. We talked about the coroner's project, that's still in flux, and that's where we're at.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
HR.
Good morning again.
Do you have a PowerPoint like that last one? No?
They always one up me. Good morning, happy April. Time is just clicking by so quickly. I just wanted to bring a little bit of a recap of what I've been doing in this last month. And that is, you know, everything HR, from FMLA, ADA to investigations. So we are in constant movement on that. And on March 13th, I did attend with Lauren and Kyle from our state's attorney's office the IPELRA employment law seminar in Oak Brook. So those of you that don't know, IPELRA is the Illinois Public Employer Labor Relations Association. It is an organization of public sector labor relation professionals. And this year we had over 500 people attend that seminar. So it was a big turnout. And we learned a lot. We broke out into different sessions so we could all take away knowledge and understanding of the changes and things that are coming for the new legislation. So that was good. Then on March 20th, Lauren and I went to attend the first annual IPBC, which is the Intergovernmental Personnel Benefit Cooperative all members meeting. So this is a new process for IPBC. This is where we pool to get our insurance. They've now grown to 172 members across the state of Illinois. We have a lot of our counties around us that are joining. I sat with Boone County, DeKalb County, Lake County. So we're all really beginning to pool and be part of this new cooperative, or old cooperative that's doing a great job for us. There was some very interesting presenters. One was the Chief Medical Director from Express Scripts Evernorth, and his topic again was the GLP-1 drugs. And we keep talking about this because it's making havoc with insurance. It is just tremendous growth, expense, it's pushing and driving costs. There's long-term benefits, but the goal of the pharmaceuticals is for people not to come off these drugs. And that's scary. So he talked a lot about that. We are going to have to make some decisions on how we go forward and continue to cover them. We do cover them right now, but it's very, very expensive. So we're either going to have to raise the BMI requirements or raise the cost to the employees somewhat to help offset some of these costs. So we'll be talking about that in the future. So he had some really good insights to it. So I also met with Northwestern Medicine to discuss the aggregate data of the wellness exams. And I know, Pam, you had some questions last month about that. We did test 750 employees. 588 of them were repeat employees that came back for a second year. 162 new participants, and 317 high-risk notifications were sent to employees.
That's great.
Those are risks where people are outside their normals. That's tremendous. One critical call was made, and that means that doctor called that day when they looked at those results and said, you need immediate attention. So that was life-saving. So really good stuff with that. We did look at, they give you a very big aggregate data information. The thing that I really appreciated was a lot of our higher risks groups have now moved into lower risks. So it is helping. So we are seeing that, and that will in turn help, healthcare costs. But we are seeing things shift. BMI is going down. We have over 100 people on the GLP-1 drugs. So it's a little scary. But all good results either way. So this last weekend, for those of you that probably are real aware of it, it's kind of a quiet little group, the Merit Commission. Holly from our office, she helps administrate, she sets up their meetings, she does the testing, she's been a part of this for years and years and years. They did the sheriff testing over the weekend. They actually had 170 people sign up to do the testing. 102 attended, and 68 passed the physical agility. They're now waiting on the written piece to see who passed. So they were really happy with getting 170 to apply. I don't know why only 102 showed up, but because they test in other areas. They sign up for everything and then they go wherever it's convenient, wherever they want it. That's one of the reasons why, yeah. And when you talk to some of the older time employees that have done this, it used to be they would compete against 500 people taking these tests. Mm-hmm. So it is a significant decrease. While we have seen a little bit of an uptick in the applications, it's still really significantly down from what it's been in past years. So, vacancy report you have in front of you, just to kind of go over some things. Just to kind of bring your visual to the first 19 positions, this identifies a tremendous amount of the departments across the county. If you look down in the next groupings, there you'll see your bigger departments and your bigger openings. So all in all, while we have 85 openings, I think we do a really pretty tremendous job of keeping them filled. There are some positions that have been open a little bit longer. Some of them are hard to fill. Some of them are positions that they've paused on. I know a lot of Valley High was waiting for memory care to open. So it does tell a story, but at the same time, when we look at where we started in January, we were at 85. So we've just literally kind of treaded water. We lost some, we gained, we hired back. But again, you can see the cost on the second page and the totals. And I actually had a conversation with Carrie during the week because we talked a little bit about my list and her list. And the idea that, somehow there's different things, way things are budgeted versus what you're always seeing on a vacancy report. So, does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Did you learn anything at any of the other seminars that you went to that ultimately might affect us from a monetary basis, except for the weight loss drugs? And do we pay for all of them? Do we cover all of them? The three big ones, I guess, maybe is my question.
I think the biggest thing is anything that is diagnosed with like the diabetes and stuff, yes, that's got a medical need. It's the Zepbounds and stuff that have come on, and yes, we do cover those. We cover the Zepbound and things like that, but they have to meet a medical requirement. There is a prescription that has to happen. That's why we talk about the BMI and things like that. So, like I said, unfortunately, coming out of IPVC, I think we're going to see an uptick in insurance. They've already talked about preliminaries. We're trying to be creative to see how we can help offset some of that. In regards to the legislation,
yeah.
I just got a notification, I don't have it all in front of me, yesterday that the group that we pulled from the federal government for our mediators for labor negotiations were just all
Yeah,
gone.
they were all,
They were all
gone.
on leave. Yep, every one of them. So now we have no one to draw from. If we get into a contract mediation, it was free that we could bring a mediator. We used a mediator in Unit 3. We don't have that pool to pull from. So the cost is going to be unknown. We don't know where where we're gonna be able to even pull them. It's probably gonna have to be written into contracts on who's gonna pay this. Is the union gonna pay half and the county pays half, or, how are we gonna figure that out? So by pulling that resource, so yes, we're seeing, some upticks.
Trickle down, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see where it's at. They pushed that out. So that's a little disappointing because they're a great group to pull from.
They're experienced. They're experienced
Super
and,
experienced.
Yeah, downstate from my hometown, the grade school and their union, they found out the day before their mediation that they didn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, that's great. We don't have one.
Yeah, they don't have mediation. So it is gonna be a little bit of a challenge. I'm very happy that we don't have contracts this year, hoping that maybe some of it'll settle down and come back. But next year, we're gonna be busy. So, any other questions on the vacancy? I can send this to you electronically if you like to sort and do all that kind of stuff, or that's good.
Sure.
So I just wanted to take a moment. The vacancy report is a big item, and it's a very busy and challenging position. And I just wanted to take a moment, if I may, and just have a conversation in regards to one of our employees, Debbie. She's announced her retirement, May 2nd.
Congratulations.
Debbie started with the county on May 14th of 2007. She has been at the county for 17 years, 10 months, and 19 days, but who's counting? Debbie spent her entire time in the county dedicated to the HR department, and I mean dedicated. We'd often find her sneaking in on the weekends to catch up, especially in our old file room. Don't know for sure why she liked that file room, but she loved to come in and organize. Debbie plans to spend time doing what I consider some crazy adventures with her husband, Mike, and her soon-to-be new grandchild, and her wonderful children and family.
Congratulations.
She has an amazing, dedicated employee, friend, and she will take a piece of all of our hearts with her.
Aw,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Britt. Okay, yep, good.
Jealous.
Communication.
Well, that took me a little bit by surprise because Debbie's honestly the first thing on my communications list. So, wow, okay. Didn't know that was coming. All right, so Debbie approached me earlier this month, last month, about an opportunity regarding, young people being able to come into the county and work with our Division of Transportation. And she suggested that it might be a good social media post for us, and so we did, and it was our second largest post, this month, at reaching 61,000 odd people. So again, I mean, this is a great idea, and from what I understand from Debbie, they had to close down that, that position, or those positions within a week because they had so many applicants. So well done.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we also did, in county administration, develop a Nextdoor page to be able to reach folks within McHenry County boundaries. One of the advantages of a Nextdoor account is that it lets you post to your neighborhoods. So you're guaranteed to be reaching exactly your constituents, not necessarily people all across, the globe, when it comes to Facebook and, Instagram, Twitter/X and, LinkedIn. But again, that's another item that was on our communications strategic plan. So again, just putting those forward. Communications collaborations, county administration works very hard to work with different departments to push out different communications initiatives, but there are a couple that I want to highlight this time that didn't quite make it into the report. Right now, county administration, the procurement and special services department, and the economic development corporation have been working to promote a broadband internet survey to better understand, the connectivity issues here in McHenry County. Well, we also had some assistance from the health department to provide translation services as well. which we just got back today, yes, so that we can reach additional folks as we try to understand these issues. I'd also like to note that as far as responses so far, McHenry County is leading the pack of the different counties across the state of Illinois that are participating in this initiative. Matter of fact, we have twice as many responses as the next closest county, which happens to be Lake County. So again, we're really getting the message out there. And if you have any constituents that might be interested in participating, please let them know. It's on our the front webpage that we have. So check it out. Also like to note that our Department of Health is collaborating again with Wake County on Operation Dropbox. They just put out a joint release on that to try to identify locations. So again, really looking forward to what they're going to do this time around. They shattered records last year, and I'm sure they're going to do that again this year. Communications of note. So I was very pleased when our circuit clerk texted me in the evening saying, "Oh my gosh, we're on ABC7." And literally you could see that their Hope Card program was on ABC7. You might be asking, what is the Hope Card? Hope Card is a pocket-sized laminated card that folks who obtain a plenary order of protection can carry around and present to law enforcement in the event that an order of protection needs to be enforced. So it makes it a lot easier for survivors to be able to enforce their orders. Sometimes, they have to carry around pages and pages and pages of court orders to keep themselves protected. So again, it's a great groundbreaking initiative that the Circuit Clerk's Office is participating in, and we're happy to collaborate to get that word out. Also, you can note that Circuit Clerk's Office was featured in November, so I didn't report on it until now, but they were also featured in November for their Amnesty Week on ABC7. So just thought I'd get that out there. Follower growth and reach. I'm a data person, so this really makes my heart sing. Follower increase on Facebook for this first quarter of this year has already achieved 93% of the growth that we had of all of last year. So again, just wild to see how much faster we are growing this year than last year. We have had 2.2 million impressions on our Facebook account alone this year, so just incredible to see the difference this year. You can see for yourself the different reach and engagement across, the different, channels in the chart that I have below. Just as a, refresher, reach is, how far how many different accounts you've, reached. But engagement shows what people are interested in, what they're clicking on the most. So again, you can see that, some of the different top posts there. And if there's anything else you'd like me to touch on, I don't want to.
Questions?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
In your packet is my self-evaluation. I think it's down at the bottom of your packet. I don't know if there's any particular questions on this. This is the same timeline we've used for the last several years, where I just kind of start this process by kind of giving you my take on how things have gone in terms of our accomplishing the goals that you identified for county administration. At the bottom of the document, I threw in a few goals that I think might be good for the coming 12 months, but I think I'll probably spend a little bit more time formalizing those for your review next month.
I was going to say, because of what we have on April 23rd, I'd like to shift this back a month.
Okay.
I mean, just because
That's a
I
great
think that
idea.
we're going to have that stuff up, and I would like to have a chance to look at that at the same time.
It'll help this. I think everything on here is going to be a goal, but I think we'll give more goals.
We'll give the board a chance to decide that.
That looks like my itinerary.
No, I'm not saying we won't do it, Peter. We will do it. I just think that it doesn't make sense to me to not have the board have a chance to weigh in on that April 23rd day and us kind of anticipating what they're going to do.
If I could just, a couple of, I don't want to run through everything that we did last year, but I think you'd all agree that our transition from our HR director is going really well. I'm very pleased with how Suzanne's.
I don't know how she's gonna do it without that help leaving though.
And similarly, in the Chief County Assessment Office, Alex has really stepped in and been a seamless transition. Alex is going to be presenting to you his assessment show at the Cal meeting next week, or 2 weeks. Yeah, oh, it's next week. Yeah, it's next week.
Next week, yeah.
Another transition that I've been very involved in is at MCEDC. That's something we didn't know how that was going to go, and we were making both last year. But Mark and I worked very closely. I worked a lot with Steve Ballo and Mike Scala and finding Mark and welcoming Mark. It's been great. Kind of resetting our relationship with the MCEDC and similarly with the Enterprise Zone. I think that's gone well in the last 12 months. The strategic plan, as we referenced, kind of got a lot of groundwork done already. I'm looking forward to that. Scott wanted me to remind you, April 23rd, so I did it. Alicia has done some great work on artificial intelligence, and I think we're going to see a lot in the coming months on there. We have 6 licenses, or five licenses we've farmed out to both elected officials and appointed staff members, and each uses it's Microsoft.
It's Copilot.
Copilot, Microsoft Copilot.
It's a higher level version of Copilot than what you might see on your computers, and it does a variety of functions from email searches, document searches, drafting documents for you. It does a lot of things. So they each have a responsibility of coming up with some ways that how they've used Copilot to improve their daily functions and reporting back to the group. That'll be our next step. Got involved in the training there. Shaylin and Mark Picos have done a great job in getting our municipalities to work together on the EDGE program, on economic development. Very happy with that. The fiscal health, Gary is keeping us on course. Our initial preliminary audit suggests that our fund balance is going to be up at 6.5 months. That's down from 7.1 months, but 7.1 months is maybe a little high. So 6.5 months is comfy for Carrie, but you prefer to stay up by 6. But we're in good shape. Obviously, Lake County has helped us fund our capital program, which has really been a godsend. We're funding that capital program with one-time expenses with one-time money, and it's working pretty well. Then on the back, I just have some goals. Now, I did have a goal on there about working with mental health board and some of their reporting. I think that's going to shift a little bit. We're going to obviously be working with County Machini and the board and assisting them in identifying new leadership and that new relationship there. And I want to look kind of top to bottom about their staffing and how they're doing things. Scott and I are looking at a little bit about how Winnebago County is doing their staffing around twice as much money, frankly, as they have on, because they have a half-cent sales tax in Winnebago.
Do they give you any idea of timing? I mean, obviously, they must have been thinking ahead, so do they have any idea of how soon they'll be able to address new leadership?
No, I did have a conversation with Connie yesterday morning, I think. No, today's Wednesday, Monday morning. And she was getting the job description out for her local board and looking for comments. And I said I want to balance urgency on getting that filled versus taking our time to make sure we're getting what we want and giving ourselves a little time to think through exactly what we want. So
I only do that because Connie's term ultimately ends, and I know that she's indicated that she's not re-upping. So yeah, just kind of consistency.
She and I are going to be speaking after this meeting. I'm going to check in there. We talked a little bit this morning about jail health care, and I think I kind of put that on there as to work with the sheriff. I think that's going to be a pretty big item in the coming months. And then, we touched on the federal mediators, but the changes in the county's relationship with the federal government is happening in lots of different areas, and we don't even know all of them yet. But I think that's going to be a big part of this year is kind of understanding that. Scott and I have met with David Christensen to talk about FEMA And what is FEMA gonna look like? We don't know, but we can certainly expect it's gonna be different. And when FEMA's different, the dollars flowing to AIMA are different. When that happens, it's gonna have a ripple effect to us. So we're trying to stay abreast of that.
We actually talked at Public Health about adding a line item on our committee agenda about exactly that, kind of a federal overview and a federal update. Just again, so at those various monthly meetings, we're getting reports about any potential impact on what's going on at the federal level and at the state level then, as it drifts down, about how that ultimately may impact. And it may not change, it may change, but at least we'd be aware of what potential impact we're going to experience.
Carrie and I met with Melissa on
Yeah.
Monday afternoon. I spoke with Melissa already this morning. She's preparing a document for Carrie and I to share with finance tomorrow. Again, we're aware of a $600,000 grant reduction. That's not a straight one-for-one because we can reduce some of our costs in some areas. We want to be able to talk with that and start that discussion. I don't think Melissa's going to be able to be at the finance tomorrow because she's got another commitment, but we'll have some information for finance committee tomorrow.
And she does present, just so you guys know, she does present all of that to the Public Health Board every month on what's going on there. So, thank you.
Yeah, and then, so FEMA, we know it's going to be different. IDPH cuts are different already. We talked about the federal mediator. Medicaid is on the horizon, but no sense of certainty there of what that will mean. So.
Watching Workforce Network as well.
Yeah, watching Workforce Network as well.
Yeah.
What else did I put down? Those are all the things in my document. Is there any questions on this? Anybody? Okay. Thank you. I benefit from putting this together, so if you read it, great, but it's helpful for me to just put it all
See what's on the horizon. Okay.
Your statement of what's that?
We will talk about it in May.
Talk about it? No, you said June.
Well, May, we're gonna have the April 23rd meeting, so I'm sure we'll have an update in May.
Okay.
And then we'll get everything out to the rest of the board in June.
Very good. Your statement of economic interests are all due at the end of the month if you haven't done them already. We'll remind you. We'll remind you at Cal, we'll remind you at the county board meeting, we'll remind you April 23rd.
By the way, folks, you can be defensive if you don't do it.
Yeah, it is. Please let me know.
Thank you.
All right. I only have one future topic. Scott reminded me before the meeting, we have an ethics ordinance to review. You got a copy of it last month. I don't know if you've looked at it. It's not up today to review, but it is coming in the future. So dig it out and take a look. And I'm sure we will. Yes, go ahead.
I've got some future topics that I hope are not too much in the future.
Okay. What do you got?
I would like to have us look at the possibility of changing the rules to allow amendments to the budget in October, because we basically go from September and then vote, and that's it. And there's no amendments or changes. It has to be posted. That's been a problem. And I know we're looking at getting this budget process basically started right now. I know we were hoping to get, and maybe it's coming tomorrow in finance, but the feedback on where we stand on actuals to budget. Then that's one thing. The second thing, and I think this is very important because it's highly likely that none of us will be involved the next time there's a contract negotiation with the county administrator. Could we please change the rules to show a specific process on how a contract would be negotiated with the county administrator? And then this would, I think, fall under our jurisdiction, but when we're going over, for example, informing the board, the new board members and existing board members, to really have the org charts, and I had actually reached out a little bit to Carrie and Susan about this, but to show of the staff of the county, how many are reporting to elected officials? You know, what does that look like on a pie chart? Where are all these people? Where is their funding coming from? The staff and the budget, and how much
funding, or are you asking reporting? Which thing?
Yes.
Both.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, there was a
Funding and
Yeah,
reporting?
organizational. Yeah.
Organizational funding and reporting.
Yeah, organizational, because some of these affect our, you know, what we're looking at on our budget that we're, as far as what the levy is, and then some of them don't. And I think it's tough, here we are in the county board, and we don't even really understand if this 264 million, this 64 million, and where's the rest of the money coming from, what's covered by grants or federal or state. And this is a big picture that I think is critically important that we've never, well, at least since I've been here, gone into. And it's not rocket science, but it would give us a good idea of what
It's kind of a big picture funding.
Well, yeah,
Where all
scope
the line items
and,
come
yeah,
from.
scope and responsibilities. Who's responsible for what, and then where's the board oversight? We don't have oversight here or there, or do we? So these are things that have been just
That's a good idea.
rumbling through my mind.
We've done that at the state level too.
Is there a
It's a
fourth
really
point
good
for
idea.
this?
Things that you
Yeah,
can
the
do.
fourth point is, I don't know how we can deal with this, but we have our committee structure. So we have basically 7 people grappling with whatever issue is coming to the COW. And then at the COW, we don't really have the opportunity to get into some deeper issues. It's kind of like things are, well, we recommended that you do it, and people are passing things without understanding
That's
it.
why you have a committee structure, so you don't, you, just to give you the difference, if you're in Boone County, they don't have any committees at all. They meet full board every time, every meeting. And, you want to see not getting into details, that's what happens.
Well,
You have a chance to get into some details, at least at a committee level, but you're not going to have a chance with one board meeting, one committee at all meeting a month to go into all those topics.
that's my point. That's my point. And that people need to understand when we need to call a special meeting to go into things at deeper levels. Some things, not often, but sometimes things come up and we really need to get into it and people need to understand it. And it's too much in a cow. And I think that the process is in place. It's calling a special meeting. People need to understand that it's available and when we might want to get into this.
We can, that's not a bad idea. We can also talk about that in orientations of new members too, so that they do understand that that's available. And maybe even better point out that just because you are not named to a committee doesn't mean that you can't attend that committee meeting. In addition, I just would remind, many of the issues go to more than one committee. We've got, the coroner's thing went to law and government, it's here at administrative services, it's going to finance. So I think ultimately, many of those complicated issues go to more than one committee.
But kind of to that point, at least the way I'm hearing it is like, we did push it out of law and government without answers, and now we've pushed it out of admin without answers. So eventually it's gonna go to, I guess we could all come to finance, but I can't tomorrow. Eventually it's gonna come to a head at the COW. Who can call a special meeting?
So, the number used to be 7, what is it now?
It used to be 8.
It used to be 8, so with 18, it's a lower number, but I think it's 6 members then.
6 members have to request,
They have to request in writing.
Or the chairman can just call it.
or the chairman can just call it.
Okay. And I mean, it's certainly not for every little thing, but
And I will tell you, having had some of those fights in the past, that calling a meeting doesn't mean you end up with a quorum.
right. And I don't,
You gotta be careful when you
And
call a
you
meeting
use-
and you find out that, guess what, we don't have a quorum, we can't have the meeting anyway.
well, and you use the word fight. I don't think that that's the purpose. I think the purpose is for people to really get into a topic and understand instead of, I think some people get in there, they don't even know what they're hearing and their head's spinning and they cast a vote and what did I just do? What does it mean?
And but I would then say, do your homework ahead of time too. There's a partial, and I'm not saying no to the special meeting, but I mean, I'm gonna
But
tell you.
also, all due respect, talking to someone who's been in government for a while, that's a different say than someone like us who have just walked into it.
Understood, and that's.
We don't even know where to go to get the homework papers or the crib notes.
And my
so.
comment was that we have indicated that there are ways that you can do that. I mean, not only from staff, but people who have been around for a long time. I offer it again out to people, available. So do your homework, and if you don't know where to go, you've got an administrator, deputy administrator, you've got people who've been around forever. Those resources are there.
We bump up against the Open Meetings Act. And so it is hard to have a conversation, but if we call a special meeting, we can have a conversation.
That's true in certain instances. I meant do your homework ahead of time. If you're spinning and you don't know where to go and you don't know how to vote, that's different than having a conversation about an issue that everybody is going, what? You know, if it's one or two people, yeah, that's all I'm saying, Tara.
I guess another question though is, because I like to have all these notes, what are you asking for this item?
What's gonna happen at the committee?
No, I'm not asking for another, what I'm asking for is that people clearly understand that we have Open Meetings Act, so you can't get together, you can do your homework all day, but you can't talk to anybody about it.
Well, you can talk one-on-one anytime.
Yeah, one-on-one.
Because that's the reason we have 7-member committees, I understand.
Yeah.
But
So
that's the reason
they
we
need
have
to
that.
understand that when we need to get and hash through things and hear people's different perspectives, there can be a special meeting called.
But don't say that to me.
What?
Just personally, don't say that to me about time. When we run for this office, you make a decision that this is an important part of your responsibilities. And you do what you need to do the job. If you are not prepared, right? That's not the greater problem of other people.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you are prepared.
But you say time. You can talk to one
But she's
person
talking
at
about
a
the
time.
time to talk
I get
to.
it. I'm just saying, don't
to
say
go
that to me.
One by one, this is not sharing ideas. This is not iron sharpening iron. So we call a special meeting and we hash through it, you know? And I don't have anything specific in mind.
Understood.
But I know that this hassle factor, I mean, shoot, in the federal government, they've got their different coalitions and they can go through and discuss perspectives and strategies and all of this. We can't.
Yeah, well, they exempt themselves
Like
from
this
any kind of credit ones. I don't know if that's a good thing either, but whatever.
So the board needs to understand this, that this is a tool that we can exercise when we need it. And I'm not talking about people not being informed or educated, but it's that iron sharpening iron, coming out with the best results because they've been processed by the team. So these are future topics that I'd like to be like in the very near future that we can formalize and address.
Yeah, at least to even announce, and I didn't even know how many it took to pull a special meeting, so I do now.
And we should check it. I know that it was because we did it a few times when we had 24 members. That happens to be 1/3, so I'm thinking it's 6. But yeah. It was used in the past as a way when the chairman of the county board wouldn't put something on the agenda. That's why it was a fight.
Mm.
And
Oh,
so
okay.
the chairman wouldn't put it on the agenda, so we called our own meeting and had our own agenda.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why we needed the numbers. So, any other future topics? If not, we don't have an executive session today, so I can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Pam, I have a second by Nan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, folks.